it is so that definitely my consideration right now is definitely for in that faraway island that you consider definitely for that store like new people that you consider definitely find new not only new but like also them having that this that different situation where like then the cost that making it to like set off of the table market where which is where like I'm thinking setting that they will be hoping that they will be doing finding new and the different like before making it to the top of tables or like on different friends. So they have this like unexpected running and like to like already job is like the freedom of the so like them so they getting that for unexpected scenario where like before like the table now and or like right then they will be only beginning to like my table now like most likely because they will be magic table now like they're just running it with regular job and certainly would be having a very guaranteed in like regular job that scenario that I'm looking at. And at that point, I'm looking at that scenario when Navy also that at that point that it would be most important scenario to me that it was most likely once they're running into something else and connect for to be those that will be like adamant about like and just afraid about that wanting to like have that rate that is capture rating you up before capturing it's like the case that I'm going to go into, and luckily, with like the situation of like far away island, and definitely at that point, the white is running into fighting the some different like scenario to be like the first leader as well as like the senior chase like Asari as well as maybe would be totally telling them that basically they need to like avoid and get away from already from battling basically and only focus on new on finding uh, only focus on getting to the top of like the table model as soon as possible and finding due to like the whole dry season situation, like due to like the nature of like the hurricanes and stuff in that faraway island, like so definitely I'm looking like for like the leader of that the original mission as well as like senior kids that they will be totally focused on getting that time limit that's they will be having to be definitely seeing for like the crisis before which they have to like find new in like faraway island and before which like they would before like the crisis and like they would have to like leave like the faraway island as well like would be along the lines that fear and worry would be always present in like the back of that the mind but yeah the person to the level that sort of the senior feeling that sort of the level that happen to definitely so like they will be feeling that basically then being in that responsible position that basically then would be probably feeling that basically in like far away island that they should have like even if like, they don't eventually worst case scenario they will be also considering like the worst case scenario that like they will find they end up not finding like a new addicted of like stable model. If even if that happens like because like the senior leader of the technical organization, like their high priority would be to like rather than spend a lot of time that that doing deep stuff on top of like and around like stable node and like to definitely like find and then to like find new that even more than that the priority of them would be like definitely if that they to a certain extent of the and if they are not able to like find new then definitely for them to like prioritize getting out of and escaping from that faraway island before like the crisis and basically then try again like next year in like the same faraway island during like the next year crisis like this the current routine of like the priority of like the senior leader and the other like the party manager. Definitely one forever. So like definitely so eventually I'm looking at from my friends and topic like in like faraway island like then we are running into details and I'm looking like the senior leader from using like straight away taking the honor to like escape and run away from like Regigias. At that point, like I'm looking like being adamant about like staying and like fighting for Regigias, having that great battle with like Regigias and that whole adamant uh discipline of that go resulting in like basically like the interactive like called new members like getting dragged into a raid back against like against like religious like scenario that was like the senior leader would be only feeling responsible and would be concerned about like the safety of that of like each of the person member. So definitely I'm looking like only to that anyway scenarios where like I'm looking like go being separate and wanting to like fight up against that religious and that resulting in that really the remaining politician in the that getting back into the post thinking that having that great battle against that religious in which like I'm looking at that that Pokemon will be taking like the majority of their Pokemon will be taking like a certain extent of like exhaustion and injury, as well as like them that way like and like them also like losing like their results of that they will have percentage of just that they will have gone to that faraway island with them. and as well as like then this is known as like pressure and value, right? When like the scenario that I'm about to connect. So and I'm also bring like the prices and that exactly like how it's like revealed that the price shooting is like earlier than you said this current year like the price season like the time period of like the price season will be also ending will be shorter than like on how long it might be usually is like each year. It's also like a scenario that so like by the time that they will be done with like the rain patterns of like years and would be about to climb like the table mountain like on the at that point they come with different technique like the senior leaders of the organization who will be always keeping that eye on like the climate in that faraway island and everything and like would be seeing like it would be always like focused on like really seeing like the situation of like the vibration and everything and at that point the computer as like go and also be about to plan table mountain like at that point the computer like the senior leaders like not like how like it's like unusual it's just being like unusual that year that basically the pricing and being talked about usual that year. So definitely like them like the senior leaders of the world, they can like seeing signs multiple signs of like basically the pricing and like no lasting much longer and like that way that them not having like the required time for them to like climb all the way up to that table mountain and actually to a couple of clubs for like you would get on the line on different like the situation might use that new experiment. So like at that point I'm different definitely that the senior leaders that at the point you can straight away like declaring and giving like the honors to like getting Tokyo and go that basically they have to that leave that faraway island and basically that fight next year to search for girls because that they were time strong and because like the fight season was like ending earlier than usual this year. Would be along the lines of the point that thing. And so then at that point, I'm going to like go would be totally completely adamant and like self only the only thing about himself and would be that deep down like go put it only saying that basically that strongly that means is like definitely somewhere on top of like the table mode and basically definitely and this is like that right time for like basically with like Ash and Go having journey together and basically with like right now Ash like basically and I'm by the like I'm going to maybe either go probably I mean the Gary throw his that home that might have set that home that situation and might by then like Ash might have already the championship battle might have it up and possibly let's say, but like maybe has like by then the time being that maybe as the championship battle against that Leon being over and has become that the champion. So that is maybe during that time that I'm thinking like the new within like the senior leaders will be given the honor back for them to let leave and not search for like and try to have like next year to be along the lines on different levels. So like at that point maybe to carry that go finding out that has the chief just go on the champion. So like at that point I'm going like go probably or like I'm going like go Gary not really Gary not checking up on us yet like I'm just like go from both the to go with everything that is by now like without achieve the goal and without defeated Leon and might have gained the champion. So definitely everything go that everything go with strongly feeling that it was like the right time, the exact time for that goal as well to that achieve that ultimate goal as well. So like even while like the situation would be so extremely unfavorable and dangerous, but because like I'm looking like the first element and was trying that going to the extent of like basically from like the point of view of like the senior leaders of like the project and that situation might be if they don't leave like the faraway island before like the right season and like they won't be able to like at all from like them getting trapped in that faraway island and basically also like the system that hires of like of like the route of culture survival when being prosperous uh, in that faraway island all the way until that next year once like the next year that right season will be happening. If you along the lines of like an extremely risky and dangerous situation that they would have to that will be put under in one of that the points that is not there. So like I'm looking at that point like they do that goes like I'm looking at that point go I think self return adamant and go still wanting to that keep going up to like top of that table mountain and such for him. So like at that point, like I'm looking like go forgetting only thing about himself and himself at that point. And like that thing is like I'm looking like the leaders of like the about me mission like totally finally losing it and as they are different that so again the fact we would be completely losing it and will be bending out and getting enraged and like those like extreme selfishness of it and that so at that point would be showing and that point is like the scenario that I'm looking at and basically definitely at that point of the next sort of the afternoon program that raising out at Lexco and basically telling go how that basically sort those thoughts that basically they allow on that process and valuable time fighting really fit for like those that selflessness of back then that they could have by now that they could have made it to like the top of like table mountain and could have that and most likely might have even found that could have had like the rate battle and might have even been able to like capture me would be along the lines and looking at as a hero thriller sort of an embrace man of the flaming go for black everything and this and I'm looking at that point like Gary as well would be telling to that basically that that go to like not act self defense the thing about himself basically that like try to respond them to leave right now and basically try to next year bring that to the next 5 seasons like the next year to capture that ultimate to capture to get them like Gary as well trying to be trying like under school but like I'm that go getting emotional and that go completely about that himself at that point is like listen up that in that way like I'm that go at that point like basically telling that the remaining front unit members like to leave if they want that like go along it's going to like definitely more leave and basically it's going to like climb up to like the top of like the end mountain and basically definitely won't be leaving like far away and without capturing you even if it's like even if it's that's only ends up being possible that happen like and that whole yeah will be along the lines go would be like at that point like selfishly declaring and basically like go all by himself like when we walking towards like the top of like the when they go starting like line like the table mount and it's like the scenario that at that point and at that point I was to bring like the senior leaders of like the organization as well as like Tokyo as well as like Gary totally in like they totally disappointed in go and basically in an extremely disappointed and like the scared man of like and looking at all of them like probably deciding to like leave go behind and able to connect them deciding to like head back towards like towards like the outskirts of like Faraway Island like the like the to the thing would be of the Atlantic the would be Atlantic that long like scenario that they like able to conduct as like the project leaders along with like scale and Tokyo would be separating from Go and like they will be about like heading back like as just that they will be like heading on the way heading back like like them or at that point like totally uh in like the sky totally seeing that new like going up to like the top of like the flying and doing as to like a lot of taking off with like scenarios and everything and at that point I was like they might have the situation being like them now having separated and gone such far distance from that goes like was scenarios that I was so like at that point seeing new like and like that embracing that sitting in that Proj.Mew leader, senior leaders along with that Tokyo and Gary all deciding to that go up to that level of that uh, table mountain and basically that definitely to skip out and basically to attempt to that capture uh, new and like hopefully to just like hope just hope that they will them being able to like pull all that off and basically be able to like make it back to make it towards like the song park which might be park at like the place of like Faraway Island like before like the 5 season which would be even at that point would be about totally about to end uh would be like fully ending would be along the lines of like at that point like the first million and or the remaining members of like the project would like basically that was at that point like running to like the top of that table or like and then like along the and like by the time that they will be taking it to that top of that table now that I'm super that go will be there like the scenario that I'm looking like them totally feeling that disappointed growth and I was looking like uh who could be like who would have like such a lot on top of that table now and would have found new like the scenario that I'm looking so like then like once like all of them would be meeting up with like the disappointed growth would be yet like still not willing to like give up and go back until he finds me. Like at that point, I was like as that they would all be like joining up on top of like the radio node. At that point, when I was like new, totally hearing from like guys from like the top of like the radio node, and it's like at that exact location, at that exact time, was like the scenario that I was doing, and that way like I was looking at that point, like them having that absolute raid back against like new in which I'm still thinking the matter to rent for like two possibilities either like definitely either so in an extremely unexpected manner like due to that goals like current ultimate goal being like and being so close to the situation at that point, I was being so close to like doing that role, like and that go in an extremely unexpected manner, unlike in like five performance in against like in that gallery and that against against like Regigigas, where I can bring that go to be like the Proj.Mew member who would be performing that who might be at that point like performing like the worst and that career that against that Regigigas, but like I'm looking like that when you can go and it's like Pokemon like totally unexpected man of like that right back against like new like and like will be performing like will be outperforming even like Gary and like the senior members of like the party. So again the funny and go kind of the main leader and all of the like the scenario that so like that way like I'm doing like eventually the raid that is ending up against like you ending up in such a scenario where like all of like the remaining new members participating in like the raid that will be all like having all of the Pokemon training and like finally just being so and just like single Pokemon like that will be remaining standing and like I'm preferring that to be most likely badly injured and exhausted in the on so like I'm preferring that while at that point that all the remaining team members that for the that curiously watching like an exhausted go will be fighting off against that me but like exhausted in the and I'm different in that battle. I'm different male. By then, like I'm different that so the continuous like fighting of that the trade battle against me with that them all that different of them using maybe four of like the not three but like maybe even four of like the uh, Pokemon to each of them to like me the like using either three or like four of like the Pokemon to like fight up against like me together in that trade battle. So that they collectively that all the forces that entire band like finally getting exhausted and at that point of the point that way that exhausted intelligence of that go finally being able to like, take advantage of that sort of situation of me basically finally made it that go intelligence that way that barely managing to that defeat new but like at that point itself like intelligence as well will be like succumbing to the extreme exhaustion and would be waiting as well. That's like the scenario in the scenario that I'm looking and at that point just like go being like the one to like catch up. Like only one person that I'm looking, but like more likely person that I'm looking for the even with like that end up on the bad like until like me totally would be mostly effortlessly surviving at least yet like the so I'm still putting in that like it's like me will be outperforming all the other project members and even in that final that between that both in the and like new and that uh, so that bad like go giving it go into like intelligence they don't give me their absolute everything and basically and finally managing to like tire out that kind of soft that me finally until that point I was like new fighting the entire way back without even panting or like getting to first at all. It's that scenario that happened. So like with that final attack of like intelligence like uh who taking certain extent of like damage and like you starting to like pant at that point that scenario that happened. And yet like you will be the news like final attack you did taking out and defeating was Deleon as well, like Narik Dynamics. And at that point, that Goku would have been totally desperate to like catch up, not only find me, but to like really capture me and make me as well. This like using this like Pokeball to capture me using this like Pokeball that when that goal might have been ended up by that like after like Deleon as well would be getting defeated by me like at that point. Go would be like would be feeling so extremely disappointed in like interest and they really as like goal he thinks that it's just great it's like ultimate goal to catch up me like at that point I'm like I'm the one maybe having that telepathic powers which that me could be like totally be able to like read like the minds of like each and every one of like the participant members and like you totally sending how badly and how desperately even more like that all the remaining participant members like how badly so wants you so wants to like get but so like that absolute street desire of like and passion of like go connecting to you like probably ending up with like you getting touched by that and that way like you even after defeating like then get the party members including though like I'm still you at that point like the choosing go at that point and like that way go ending up becoming like the chosen one by me and this that way being totally appearing before like coming close towards like the disappointed go and basically at that point like you probably communicating with like go without like so like sincerely I'm looking like in like through in like you would be totally communicating through without words, like without any language, like still you will get the communicate using that news like about that and that go instantly realize that what you at that point you'll be telling go and then be to that for like to that character. So like at that point like I'm like for being totally excited and we go straight away on this like Pokemon at that news. And that way, like, go finally capture and achieve that ultimate goal of that basically capture. There's like saying that other possible scenario that I'm explaining, which is like the scenario that I'm leading more towards definitely not right. And at that point, definitely I'm looking like the dry season will be almost like completely over and the hurricanes and everything will be starting to get injured. So like at that point, I'm like go and I would like go like all the Proj.Mew members like basically lack of clear crashing down from like the TableMount and really rushing down to that gets to like the outskirts of like Faraway Island towards the throne and connect them. So we barely managing to like make it towards like the north. And at that point, some something like the hurricane and storms and everything will get even more intense and then like the leader of like the Proj.Mew mission the person like flying the from that will be totally extremely feeling worried and like really unsure if like they will be able to like make it out of like Faraway Island like uh, uh but like I'm just and like I'm just like they are drawn as well taking certain extent of damage as well while trying to like fly and escape out of that Faraway Island. Yet like I'm just them barely manage to like escape out of that Faraway Island anytime and we being able to like even with like the damage like I'm like and I'm just like left on getting damage to the point that I'm like them not being able to like, fly far yet like I'm just like them flying and being able to like make it to like the nearest region and basically that way landing the wrong in like the nearest region and that way that basically that so that exactly point and this me like and at that point I'm like both of them like basically exactly really like basically and like because like if for it to not even be revealed that and so like the excited from both like actually getting it like just by seeing both excitement excited faces as well as excited faces like both of them would be straight away realizing that like both of them has in fact like achieved their ultimate goal. Is like the scenario that I'm notifying and that's very understood. And also, I'm still thinking about the preemption that after like new that Liam for like won't be setting up that next ultimate goal as to that catch up new to stuff Lima preemption and then to that eventually like with Kevin and Pony for like the go event mega evolving is like new to maybe in both of it's like a mega evolve evolution form like over like in the scenario of like a goal that like maybe achieving like into the but in the case of Hatch like after becoming the champion defeating Leon and becoming the champion like Hatch would be only also will remember the reason for like Hatch solving game plan and like having no clue until like what to do next like so that way like Ash deciding to like head back to like the planet town to figure things out as to that what he wants to do next like in the scenario that way the like Ash and go at that point like saying their goodbyes and that's like in the scenario that I'm going to but my represent of that go that we might definitely not have knowledge to actually create like such a psycho architecting device out of like scratch to completely invent such a device for right and just to have like focus of camera that upgraded like actually that might have represent that it might have been like the combined help of that focus of maybe stories as well as like focus of Kusa as well as like as well as like profit of as well as like Amaran for Amaran that might have collectively done like the majority of like the one of like the creation of like the psychology detection device that like so right now having to like question might have been so that might have invented like that idea of that device alone might be like the actually that lead my things well, definitely not very interesting. That maybe what might have happened might have been that go seeking the help of that Trisa friend as well as that stories and that it might have been with their combined help that like go might have created this like device that can detect like psycho energy. But like I'm just saying that that device might have been thoroughly imperfect, might be that the case at that point. My due to like friend as well as Trisa as well as like doctor, sorry, having other job like their own actual job. Which they might be definitely pushing in so like and so like they might have so like that way like they might have not had like much time to like spare just to like create this like device that like so on. So like that way, like the even after like the creation, like the device might have been perfect, might be like the actual situation, and like once like four might have brought that device to like from Amaranth, like at that point, like Amaranth might have that initially straight away assumed that it was like those like invention like so by all by himself had created that kind of device, even though those process might be that what might have happened back then. And like Amaranth might have assumed that, and maybe like go at that point might have told Amaranth that like it wasn't that so all alone by himself that has done that, but it was like mainly the work of that and help of that friend as well as that sorry that made like those like idea of like such a device uh, become a reality. Maybe along the lines like Go might have told Amaranth, and yet like Amaranth might have been thoroughly impressed with like the fact that like Go had such unique and creative idea of such a device that like I'm saying that Amaranth might have been so extremely impressed with like Go um, that like Amaranth might have then upgraded that device psychology to second device of Go, and then Amaranth might have been so extremely proud of like Go that like I'm saying that Amaranth might have straight away go to like the finances when my show declare to them that like it was like those invention that amount has only just like upgraded like it was that course that has the invention that it was that psychona music in the like get on the lines that amount might have proudly declared. And that way like in different like elected person like on terminations might be assuming that when in actuality might have been like the if like that might have been like when as well as like web series as well as like Amaranth like web might be like that definitely my person and personal question. It is so like definitely my particular reimbursement right now. So that is maybe that the actuality of the situation might be that like muted and you might not have that similar kind of like psycho energy waveform might be like the actuality of the situation about it that none of them may be aware of the might be reimbursement the league. Even while according to my consideration, Go might have sought the help of Black Friend as well as Black as well as Black Sorry to Black build this Black device Black and Go might have told them to that Black Go intends on eventually using it to Black only compare with Black compared with like the cyclone of the waveform of like you might see like the so that about this like so like this might be the case that both Muto as well as Mu like cyclone of the waveform definitely might not be synced up might be like that kind of situation. So like when I start with straight like the device like like an intent like psycho energy waveform. So like at that point I'm looking like straight away like the device that was sending that psychology waveform to that professor using that device to that software Amazon. And then we're connecting comparing that the psycho energy waveform that should be detected to that of that music. And then we're trying that at that point, like I'm considering like the scenario being like the psycho energy waveforms like not problematic at all and not even remotely close at all. This is like the scenario that I'm looking And at that point I'm looking like that being such an absolute shock for like all of them. It's like the scenario that I'm looking. So my then that particular project within members will be all assuming that we keep uh, that even at that point that like new as well as music might definitely be having that ability set similar kind of like one of the forms which might not be like that with the just like about the game my particular it's like about that about the project. So definitely at that point I'm looking like all the project new members getting disappointed. But like I'm looking at that point like Tokyo alone like feeling hopeful and optimistic because like I'm looking at that point that Tokyo on this point will be telling them that maybe it's like celebrations that Tokyo's like ultimate goal is not new and since it's like celebrate that at that point I'm looking that Tokyo would be probably starting to like feel that hope that of like the positive and maybe that psychology wave that they had detected from like the top of like TableMount and possibly the positive that being from 70 like along the lines like Tokyo will be getting hopeful at that point but all the remaining point numbers will be feeling disappointed like the scenario that I'm towards that way. Still them totally deciding that they have came so far that why not just check it out and find out like which Pokemon that is because like the psycho energy wave which I'm referring they're detecting from that faraway island will be so extremely intense that like in different like them deciding to like please check that out like the scenario that I'm like and so I feel like I'm looking still once they would maybe to like the very top of that I don't know but like I'm like once like I'm sitting to my different for like them not making it to like the top of that table model and then straight away not integrated at all that the fitting is that running toward that point. Was that not the scenario that I'm then even after like making it to like the top of that table mountain and the different for like them searching frantically and that's a lot of time getting going and basically eventually situation ending up with like the dry season like ending earlier than expected. So like the dry season will be about to end and like I'm assuming that as they will or forcing board to enter into that they need to leave and like go in adamant and really go prepare like stay there at like the top of like stable mountain and while the others will be about to leave at that point like me showing up and that way like at that point like I'm about to conduct them war would be stopped at that the site of that and at that point is when I'm doing that ultimately or like thoroughly getting support from that because I'm not saying that they will the site so and of the way of that new tool as well as that new that completely different might be that like the using that along such lines that for around my as I don't use to that the protein numbers and headaches sometimes like so that's what the intense like psychometry waveforms that they would have got by then might be that of like actually you get a glance like of the amaranth in the telling and relating to like the shop Proj.Mew members who would be in like the presence of that new at that point and like straight away like suddenly turning the camera towards like at that point like from the Ramadan that is seen that you through a video in that and getting stopped at that point like scenario that I was and at that point I was looking at Tokyo would be until that point would be totally accompanied with in be feeling totally hopeful of like the of like finding celery will be at that point that the instantly that the point to a great extent. Yeah, like I'm looking at him probably adjusting to that disappointment and then he deciding to like continue on with that for trade by the against that new it's actually in the scenario that I'm with all the technology. Okay, so like definitely one preemption right now is that the accuracy of like the situation might be definitely might be totally flopping about like creation of that cyclone or these needs of that being like field of expertise when accuracy like this and that time like so I think haven't like created like this and that time like though while traveling with Ash and basically going around catching like repeatedly just catching Pokemon and feeling like the Pokédex and that time like go and that have gone through all sorts of situation and trouble and that basically this and that time like the fact that like go has not I think like has not even created like a single of like a device like any sort of like device at all and yet like the fact that like so all of a sudden right now claiming that like device is like psychoanalysis detection device like this. The creation of an invention of that such device being that all of them like proclaiming that the beef is that field of expertise like my considerations that in the situation absolutely the potential might be that it might have been that Krisa friend that the combined help of that Krisa friend as well as that processor that might have then made it possible for like what might be those own origin idea of like the psycho energy detection device into that reality. Like it might have been them that might have actually put in all that hard work. And while that might be like the idea alone, that might be that of so yet like I'm doing right now might be so trying to like bluff and like uh boost himself up due to more what might be most likely was like a state insecurity connecting to this like performance so far in like the Proj.Mew mission so far in the journey in like the Proj.Mew mission, which like Go himself will be seeing as like a disappointing one because like because like I think like even Go had even made it Go even making it to the chaser as well that as well I think that being that Go barely making it to become a chaser and basically Go having that in his journey in like the whole Proj.Mew after like joining like the Proj.Mew like in their journey like Go having like messed up on a lot of situations like this. So like in the present right now in like the presence of like basically in like the main project main mission that is in like the presence of like people like and Gary and like Suragi and Asari like senior chasers Suragi and Asari as well as Gary like whom since like both definitely will be extremely insecure and might be afraid to like impress them and make them feel as if that was like totally worthy of this like person as like one of like the chasers. So like in order to make himself feel like those insecurity, like in order to like make go look as if like he's deserving of like the position of like players or like a metro right now would be totally might be maybe bluffing about that creation and invention of that devices that can get that psycho energy, waveform and everything that basically all of a sudden it all being that works that field of expertise while this entire time though I think has created like not even a single device, any sort of device until this point. Might be due to that inactivity that totally most likely being a bluff of Go and that Go most likely having uh, not at all much of like a knowledge at all. And might definitely not be like the person that might have actually done the process of like actually creation of psycho and actually detection way for device might be like that very different situations that he might be hearing. Okay, so like the new method very interesting right now is that in like the say something like naturally it might be only like sort of the Gary as well as Joe Hello that might be desperately wanting to catch up. Might be like that should be the situation, especially when in the case of in the case of in the case of like Tokyo, like Tokyo might be only like would be like Tokyo only doing this all for to eventually make it to Felity as like Tokyo has what they will be lecture on. So like Tokyo might be totally not talking interested in like basically capturing new or anything, but like yes, like Tokyo might be totally like a mindset that it will be still like a rare experience to like totally to actually see like see and possibly even bad it might be along the lines like Tokyo would be thinking like or to just even see news will be along the lines like Tokyo would be thinking and so definitely and in the case of like Asahi that only interest would be to like only being part of like, the first mission will be to like totally collect data like to totally essentially find new and like battle new that was a race battle and through that race battle like the way you would be approaching that race battle and everything like through that race battle like after he would be only expecting and hoping to like learn so much about that new and collect all sorts of like data detailed kind of like data connecting to new connecting to like new behavior and like new like all sorts of news like tuning powers and all sorts of mysteries connected to new like have to unlock and to like learn all about it great extent or like a lot of about it that would be like the only goal of Asahi and like Asahi might be not actually naturally might be not interested in like actually or like would be desperate to like actually catch up new or anything. Supplement could be like the data connected to that new and on that like Asahi might be happen definitely not. While it might be Surugi in the case of Surugi, like Surugi might be after like about the data as well as like the Pokemon uh, might be to capture like the Pokemon as well as to collect all the data. All the entire capture the data comes into that news might be Surugi's goal. Present goal is definitely and the reason behind like Surugi going for might be like the case of like Surugi is actually manipulation. But in the case of like Gary as well as like go like it might they are it would be like as if like they have their pride on their line since from their point of view like they're only seeing me as like one among like the three strong sports one existing in like the board so like to capture actually to capture uh and make their Pokemon would be that much of like a great accomplishment for them would be along the lines like so Gary as well as so it's definitely my opinion and like definitely I'm looking that to be just like Surugi, according to my president, can probably make it might be just like Surugi carry and go alone. That might actually would be the space to like carry something. Uh, might be the case definitely my question be answered. So at according to my president, in that Surugi skills, like it might be not not only like the collection of data or the entire data connected to that new, but also that when it comes to like capturing new that from Surugi's point of view, it might for him capturing new, especially with like Surrey, I think in like about have been able to like capture like bunch of like races I think like this. So definitely for Surrey like capturing such a rare and powerful Pokemon would be most likely like conquering a mountain like since like Surrey's like expertise like it's on like half pound Pokemon living in half pound of things and I'm just like that. So definitely for Surrey it might be like giving like capturing like a strong and rare and powerful Pokemon would be like conquering a mountain would be like that kind of like a satisfying feeling for like Surrey and hence like Surrey that might be like along with like collecting that like that feeling to get that feeling as well. This is what like Surrey would be like one main reason behind like Surrey and recording would be definitely depending on like capturing uh me for himself. might be like that visible situation that we might be real. So like I could remind the situation right now that new like the function like showing up there in front of the might be that felt it due to that new that then might have been using like telepathic power which I think like you have or like already new will be having that. Isn't that like a new might be going around like reading like the minds of like going up traveling around like the world like reading minds of like great number of like humans searching for that right person for like and according to my own impression of the image of that remote possibly like since the day that he appeared in front of the door and like you might have realized like the kind of person so and you might have seen those like the talking about the like since then when you had appeared and disappeared in front of you the actual incident might be like I think that you can turn itself invisible aspect of to like turn itself invisible. So that's what might have happened back then might have been you only turning itself invisible as well as that taking on that absolute step by uh, hiding its like psycho energy, psychic energy powers and everything, and making itself like you making itself like non-detectable. Its like presence completely non-detectable. Might be what might have happened is like a remote into that thing. While you since that day on after like seeing go as like the chosen one, like you might have been still be following around go just in that time all throughout that go journey since that day go had seen you in like the like system, but might be that the activity of the situations better remote work is that important. But it seems that like you might have been certainly like throughout like the entirety of like both journey and with like and so that you might have been still famous in that time might have been still be while hiding it completely thoroughly hiding its laptop might have been like following those around and might have been excitedly watching like those like throughout overall as like a person as well as like a Pokemon as like a trainer in terms of like strength, in terms of like compassion, and in terms of like maturity and everything that goes like overall throughout this entire time, like in fact, this entire time might have been really following go around this entire time and might have been observed, might feel like that will able to be if like the other remote possibility that I'm going to probably putting and might be very important for me to that get captured by and like I'm when like in that search like what might have happened might have been once that you might have like it might have been both like might one like you might have been scanning going around scanning continuously scanning so it's like the house like once like you might have ran into that go and go mind like using the telepathic house like one like you might have seen to mind like you might have at that one you might have taken quite a liking towards like the whole entire like the mindset of so and might have straight away even back then itself that you might also be chosen so to be it's like trainer but like not back then but like for like that for like because like back then like I'm to like you might have just given impression how extremely weak of like a trainer focus so like I'm for instance like you would be have to be when aware of its own exceptional strength like this might have wanted that even though it might have seen so as like a chosen one to be eventually be this trainer like yet like you might have totally decided that it for like supposed to be deserving of like so definitely has to get a whole lot stronger. So like another thing like definitely until then like and after like going through those mind and memories and mindset like you might have realized that like definitely by just like right now right then like appearing in front of so would be definitely would be that like desire to like eventually once again find me and like eventually capture will be getting from within that mind will be one thing that like you at that point self back then might have realized and that after that realization you might be when like you might have decided to like appear in front of you and that event happening might have been the day of you so like I'm going to put that way that you might have steadily been observing and enjoying like that absolute bond of like friendship between like and those and how them both were like individually like working hard towards like reaching their goals and like and might have been eventually once like you might have felt that basically go as that they have reached like that point at that level where like go was like only deserving to be like the trainer of that new deserving to like catch up new that at that point might be when like you might have left go and might have soared up to that faraway island towards like the top of like Table Mountain and might have totally that taken off its like stealth and might have unleashed its like intense like psycho energy waveforms and everything totally expecting that to be detected by like the Proj.Mew near and basically that way to like eventually that way draw and you are going to go towards like faraway island towards like the top of like the table now that at that point for like you to like finally face off and battle go in like that absolute battle and that way that for like you to like see sleep test go to the sprint and basically then for like new to that get captured by a deserving goal as like a trainer. Might be along the lines of the like you might have been planning this entire time and might have executed this entire time. Might have been what might have happened this entire time. Like a remote possible that ambassador like thing and might have been and pressure. So like that way it might have been that due to that new use like conscious actions that I'm different that not being able to like show up, not being able to be in like the audience and cheer on as so like as this like championship battle against that Leon, like all that being due to like new like totally like things reaching the point where like you might have felt that those like finally ready to be new trainer and that way like you creating this like strong intense like psychic energy in like faraway island and that way to draw and you go to that faraway island to the top of the favorite mountain as soon as possible because like you as well might have been impatient, might have been getting impatient that to be that to get captured by go and to be those kind of might be to be those like Pokemon might be along the line of like a possibility that I'm also and what of the reality. So that my book the emphasis that like maybe like faraway island might be inactivity that use like actual in like constant of like until like it might have might have been falling over like far away island from that constant of like until the situation eventually ending up with like maybe feeling lonely and maybe preparing to like get captured by a train of and basically to be a train of Pokemon might be along the lines like I'm thinking that you that way might have prepared eventually and like it might have been since then like you might have left its like home at that far away island and might have been like using its like maybe telepathic thought it might exist what might you to read like the water of like travel across like the world and read like the minds of the like all the great number of humans and eventually might have ended up with like you might have been what might have happened stability. So like for new that it might have been that maybe that new getting captured like go might be something from news point of view that new would be definitely would be as like as pretty like such an important event and like an important moment to always remember for like you as well as go. And that way like it might have been extremely important for me to like only for that moment to like happen exactly at news home which might have been at like far away island on but very top of like the table mountain might be like the accuracy of like the situation might be like a possibility that I'm able for young trainer. So like the really important to my preparation so different maybe of like the possibility of like the dry season like this very year like happening in like far away island earlier than usual might not be just like 12 points at all. Maybe it might be like the activity of the situation might be like the healthy and secret work of like news seeking the help from like Rayquaza. So I think that can handle better and since like I think that both Rayquaza as well as like you can travel to space like so definitely after like you might have gone through such extreme extent once like you might have felt strongly that that rope was not like ready and deserving to like capture you to fight and capture you basically at that point itself like you might have straight away left off to space and might have met with like Rayquaza and might have sought the help of like Rayquaza and might have with the help of like Rayquaza that way with the help of Rayquaza and Rayquaza using its like power the altering power like might have forcefully brought about like the dry season in like Faraway Island like earlier that usual might be what might have happened, especially my computer machine. And that so that way that you might have gone through such extreme extent due to its like extreme fondness towards like so and like the to get captured by so might be and seeing so at like that was chosen one might be that that will pick up the situation so like what might have happened. It's like only a remote kind of like a possibility that I'm making it and not again. So like we are going to remember the forget putting for like an eventual scenario where like in that eventual raid battle against like you like and definitely Surugi, Gary as well as Goku would be most likely the three who would be that badly wanting like capture me like I'm bring like eventually for from like in that raid battle eventually like the scenario ending up with like first like after like the raid battle would be going on to like a certain extent still I'm the super like move would be even when you would be taking damage, like you won't be taking damage to like the point of like actually starting to like fan or like a fire like scenario that yeah, like I'm like after like the rain battle is going on for a while, like I'm doing like it could be Sorodi that would be first like attempting to like capture and I'm like Sorodi talking of like using an ultra ball is like the scenario that I'm looking. And at that point itself, like so the like using it like long tail, like he's just lapping away that aqua balls that is scenario that and then I'm the like that trade bet is still going on. And that the like will be such a top for like and disappointment for like sort of the who feel like totally focus that like basically with that like he might be able to like get the like in the scenario that and then like I'm like that trade bet is still continuing on and then I'm the like it being eventually it being like Gary that will be next attempting to like capture me and like in the case of Gary, like I'm putting Gary most likely not using an ultra bot or even a great bot, but like I'm putting Gary most likely using some sort of like customized protocol is what I'm also trying like which will be have more like those like specific kind of like protocol which will be having like uh, which will be having like higher chance of like capture rate based on like conditions certain conditions where it's used for like connection to like maybe a unique kind of like ball which might be having that advantage and higher capture rate when used against like like Pokemon. These are like the multiple possibilities that I'm bring of like the kind of balls that like carry would be going to like Japanese. But like after like new thing, so in the strong that new that could be uh, slapping that Pokeball as well. Slapping that bot as well. Wait, it's like the scenario that I'm doing. And that way like I'm doing that at that point that he like so get that point feeling that it will be that it would be totally hard to like capture new like really it will be that feeling like basically maybe that it might be impossible to like capture new just in way that extremely strong to be along the lines that uh, go with things. And at that point, I'm like you totally looking at like for like a very moment, it's like the scenario. And that totally talking as well as like the scenario that I'm doing. And then like the rain continuing on, and like I'm doing like eventually like Surili as well as Gary, as well as Tokyo, as well as like now having all like basically having all of that Pokemon getting defeated by being selected scenarios and go being down to the select Pokemon in Delion, which with which like goal taking it like have to look everything against that yet like and with connected to the go alone at that point due to that the collective efforts like of that not only just like those efforts but like due to that the collective efforts of like the other members of like the party in that rain battle against me that all being finalized into that final battle between like Inteleon and those Inteleon versus like Mew were like finally Inteleon like giving it like absolute everything and finally Inteleon succeeding in like tiring out Mew to like the point of like Mew will be starting to like fan is like the scenario that I was explaining. So like at that point I was like go with only think that like it's finally just like chance like this might be the only chance we might get to capture me could be along the lines of the different like go big things. So like at that point but go that will be hurriedly in a hurried manner like quickly taking this like simple pro keyboard and throwing this like Pokeball at like new and like I'm like new totally slapping that Pokeball away as well and like straight away with like another attack like new just like the very next attack like new taking out and defeating like those final Pokemon in the Leon myself. So like the scenario that I'm going right now. And basically then I'm going to like go with totally that along with like Surali as well as Gary like I'm like go as well with the totally disappointed and really only at that point maybe finally accepting that accepting come to such an acceptance that basically and will be trying to like comfort himself like feeling at least glad that basically at least he could like not only once again be new but also he was able to like have I mean the battle as well against like as well he had all that experience only along the lines like so at that point will be trying to like comfort himself still while deep down was we having that absolute disappointment in like failing to like acceptance and at that point when I'm like new slowly come towards like go and basically like you at that point is when I'm like you telepathically like communicating to go that basically it wants to lecture. It was like totally such an absolute test by you to go since like the day like go had seen you for like the first time. Since the day you had appeared in front of go like you had already chosen to go to like the spring and that time like those journey was like a test by New to like until this point to like eventually like to have go appeal for that hero and eventually be deserving to the like news trainer will be along the lines like this much like data like on the like telepathically instantly communicating to like go. So like at that point like go being so extremely happy and excited and go quickly like pulling out like another Pokeball and basically pressing like the button and basically like news straight away getting into like that on the board and that way like news that way like getting captured by flow. It's like बिल्कुल it's like that linked scenario that I'm referring and my secondary impression. So it's like the clear dimension right now that is regardless of enterprise on a freeway from detected from like the faraway island like whether it's like similar to that of that new or like basically for from like new point of view like new it might be like this like moment where like literally go maybe like and go and new literally like meeting again like that moment would be like such an extremely important moment for like new but especially when friends that's thing of it definitely with like even like the revelation of the possibility of that the table mount and basically possibly being like the core and like the center of the entire game like the that possibility of it. So definitely it might have been like so still it might have been that it might be actually like the center of like the world and it might be like at like the center of like the world and like new for like great number of years all the way from the way since might have been staying and living it since way back in the ancient times. In itself might be the case until that you might have gotten bored of that basically uh, living there itself and basically and might have gotten lonely and that might have been like the point where like you might have jumped out from a faraway island from its like home from what might be its like actual home seeking to get captured by a trainer, a deserving trainer, and that way to like to get cured of its like boredom and like loneliness might be like the case with the fleet might also realize that it's really lonely. So yeah, like I'm doing like this like second reunion between like Go and Mew like might be of an extreme importance that Mew that it should definitely happen at like Mew's home. Because like after like since from Mew's point of view like Mew is eventually getting captured by Go then definitely you won't be able to like just casually go back to like it's like home. Like you the only thing that like once like you will be getting captured by go like you will be like suddenly leaving its like home, which might be of like far away island. Might be implies you as well to be the thing. So like you might want this to be like go capturing you to like happen exactly at like the top of like table north at like far away island. I guess and definitely might be the case, definitely might be the case. So like definitely that and for like you it would it might be of like the extreme importance that for like go to not even before making it to like the top of like table mountain for like go to and like at that point like you will be eventually planning on like basically making that big surprise that's going up in front eventually after like testing so to like basically frantically searching even on top of like the table mountain and yet easily being able to like find you at all would be all these kind of things might be what like you will be planning and then to like finally once that go uh to test how easily go might give up on to that goal of like capturing new and like searching for new along all those things that can the new would be the right to like test go and that's why the like the scenario how badly go want to capture new like how badly go wants to like meet you and all those like you will be only nothing and it might be solely due to that you already having all those plans for go that have to like right now all the gadgets and all the devices of like the connecting them to like of the around like uh, not functioning would be all the work of like steady work of like new steady and conscious work of new because like I'm saying like you might definitely want it to be such an important moment and like for like go to like for like news re-entrance in like into like go like from both point of view to be of like such an absolute like precious moment of like an absolute shocking surprise for so might be like news that absolute top priority of like a desire and this might be the reason for like and that way like so it might be of the priority for like news to want to like basically climb like make that climb hidden climb to like the top all the way to like the top of that table mountain while facing that absolute uncertainty of like not knowing whether like the psycho energy waveforms that like they had detected was in actuality of that or of that new or not like basically like to have them going blind without instead of like basically them already figuring out that like new this that new that's like at the top of like the table mountain and then making it that way like do not have like that element of surprise and that precious moment gets destroyed might be the reason for like new account demand creation might be the constantly doing all this might be the actual capacity struggling on frame. It is like the minimum transaction right now that I'm sitting on the company that like you will be totally right now testing whether it's like go with it in like the situation of like that uncertainty might be like against the minimum transaction. So like I'm totally talking once like eventually like and I was like both the cases would be making it to like the very top of like the table now like and like it would be something extremely hard and still not finding new and basically eventually I'm looking like the remaining of like the or new members like also giving up but like go alone like no still not willing to like give up that go alone would be having that gut feeling and gut instinct along the line as if that news is still somewhere uh, hiding on top of like table mountain. So go alone number spring would be like the only one that would be giving up that stuff. Would be not giving up that stuff and basically that way once that and at that point I'm like a government created like would be like making it like grand entrance and I'm putting that way like the raid battles would be happening between like the seasons and me and I'm totally prepping once like one and I'm preparing like the moment you will be making it like end of itself like even before like the raid battle just before like the raid battle once like news will be making it end of itself like at that point itself I'm like new would be like using its power and basically switching back like the giving back the access to like the Pokeball as well as like access to like the communication to like from the camera and everything. This is like thing the scenario that I'm doing. So like until that point, like I'm doing like for reporting the address by you if like the chasers especially go things that go will give up when faced with like such uncertain situations. Just like too quick to get and give up while the odds are against go or not. Like we need to do that one main fine among like the main multiple main fine just meant for like those might be like just like the beginning might be like against the league might be the game. And that way, that's what my brain is progressing that once like you would be making it like random and at that point after the like you would be only uh feeling that is they have find the chasers including go and finally pass that news like first test and basically so it would be only at that point like you would be giving the access to like the remaining Pokemon as well. And that way I'm just spring right now the spring of like A4 should be like three Pokemon battles and like each of like the chasers would be having that raid battle against like news would be each of them would be like ending up being able to like use like three of like the Pokemon in that raid battle against like including groups like the nature scenario that I'm looking for the and I'm trying to do. Yes, so like name is very interesting right now. Just for like maybe of like a property of like there being like the secret extreme villain stick side to like the chase on Sorogi. So the scene of chase of Sorogi is like a potential and maybe that Sorogi might be someone who might be obsessed with like that feeling of like conquering powerful Pokemon might be the case of the game of the and like basically Surely might feel something powerful when he captures that faster and let the report might be like the case the clear inspiration and Surely is like even from way different paths like anything Surely is like ultimate goal might be fear which like Surely might be believing as like the strongest Pokemon to exist and so his like ultimate goal that way might be to like immediately get fight and capture Arceus and like new might be new as well as maybe also new as well for like Surely might be like only fixed up like might be only he might be only seeing capturing new as well as like new as like just milestone or like checkpoint area like as or like milestone achievement in his like journey to like eventually make it towards like Arceus and finally capture Arceus and basically to possess that way to like conquer by conquering half your to like focus on that power could be so extremely powerful. Might be of that kind of obsession with power might be something that like secretly that Suragi might be having like the possibility that and something like that might exist that secret extreme villainous side to Suragi and so that way it was like journey to like capture me like on finding out about like Project.Mew that he might not only decided to probably take advantage of that the whole was new program to like proceed get towards like new to like only important to like get of new. Might be the case or even new tools might be around the line like but maybe Turkey might have even felt that basically that by joining Project New like he might either he end up running into either new or even maybe new to like basically either one of it might be or like both of it might be totally definitely part of that the goal of like of like surrogate to that definitely capture and like conquer might be the case definitely my friend. So definitely my impression for like even that the way when that like surrogate right now has like projects. I think like basically surrogate in like the past I think like uh I think like surrogate had not like had like rewild excitement in like the past. It was a thing. So like definitely I would prefer like this rewild might have been that the sneasel that which like Suragi even way back from the Christian past like Suragi once like Suragi might have had this like more like mind to like only even before like way before like Suragi even joining for the team like while upon the membrane Suragi might have had like I think it's going to like capture and sponsor move you like at that point itself like I'm looking like Suragi might have decided to like get himself at catch up himself that the sneasel and that totally eventually train it and turning it to turn it into like a weaver and basically that way like I'm like due to like the dark typing of like VWhile and basically so, like VWhile I think like so extremely fast like I'm into like maybe story might have seen VWhile as like the ultimate Pokemon which like he might be able to like eventually once like and hopefully he will be able to like make it towards like he will be able to like totally use of like dark type notes of like VWhile to like bring down you and like catch up you to or anyone else might be along the lines like even way before like joining party like I'm super like so he might have what he might have done might have been he might have captured like a bunch of like great number of like sneasel and basically like he might have only selected like he might have picked like the strongest among like those great number of sneasel and like might have made that sneasel around this like Pokemon had a super like party and like then he might have trained that sneasel extra hard and might have turned it into that a blue white and then might have trained and sharpened like the skill of that like very well as well. All with that absolute core of that will eventually to like use the dark soft dark type mode. And might have taught like very like might have ensured that each very well like powerful dark type moves might be also the case. So like the majority of like the moves of like very well like surrogate very well might be dark type moves alone. While the I think also having like ice type as well like maybe only a secret ice type move might be what like Levi can be having, or like I'm sorry, all of like Levi like so his Levi select moves might be all might have might be that thought to be that type moves like sort of which is all intended to like include in a captain might be the Levi friends. So definitely have to spread like for like that secret villain side of possibly existing within like Turkey that will be only extremely selfish and to even be caring at all about like others or even about like hurting others and all of that might be to the extreme extent like a secret villain that might exist really exist within like Turkey is also like a possibility that I'm saying. So right now with like Suragi wanting to be like the first person to like climb up with like the rope to enter like the rope and like the way top like and like Suragi wanting it's like we went right behind him before like anybody else like and like Suragi also wanting that to be at like the very last position like second last position like and put that as well might give you to that Suragi maybe like feeling insecure as well and like maybe something like those Suragi might be even insecure like the point where like Suragi might have heard of like basically moves having like the past like appeared in front of so like I'm then like Suragi back then who might have been obsessing over like over like him wanting to like on top and get the news might have been feeling uh just a bit of like disturbance and fear connecting to like positive maybe like as to like why exactly you who definitely would have not thought ever showed up in front of that showed up in front of that Suragi yeah, like why you have showed up in front of both. Right. Basically, and like Suragi might have kept on thinking and like might have started to feel fear of like the positive like uh maybe of like, the positive like you see that so as like a chosen one and like basically would be along the line like and maybe like you eventually like the future once again like switching the door as like conversions to like appear in front of like you know it's like Suragi might have had that good fear. So like I'm super like that with like Suragi probably telling to be like for like upper like Suragi for like Gary to be upper like Suragi and then talk to you and then go like I'm just definitely that if my favorite is that like if Asahi had herself like chosen to be like at like the last position while climbing like Suragi might have probably go to be like to like stay at like the last position while climbing the rope might be the case that is of the so there's another type of thing is called like one like where he would be make kind of like we were making it to the top and entering that up to the top of like the table mountain like at that point if I'm from like we Surah straight away or like the like we went to like only straight away cut off like the rope select the scenario that I'm sure yeah straight away at that point from the like for Gary Tokyo. go as well as like after he like basically having that absolute shocking kind of like betrayal situation happening and like an all falling from the very top of like table mountain is like the scenario that I'm like and I was putting like at that point it's when I was bring that is like the Pokeball like all of that like instantly like while falling like starting to like work with like the scenario that I was showing you instantly like sensing that happening like that betrayal when you're thinking that betrayal by Surya and like I'm sure like you straight away that focusing on go and trying to like not to say go but like staying on the other states where like go by instantly like switching on and that's their access to like the popcorn. So like straight away like I'm like go maybe sending out his like Italian and then the other he has like sending out some of like flying Pokemon which like maybe other he might be having. And basically that way like them barely managing to like save themselves from like spot and basically get like a like them like make their landing at like a midway portion in like the of like the total height of like the table mountain is like the scenario. Get like a from there them having like the task to like once again make it even without like some of like I'm looking like them at that point. That's like the situation that I'm in. Then still at that point, like even without the rock, still having to like press the door and like basically climb and make it to like the very top of like the table mount and expect the new scenario that I'm in. So like why all this would be happening like I'm thinking that Suragi would be man of confident man might be assuming that basically that basically now that none of like the remaining players would be able to like get into this way between him and you would be along the lines on the putting like Suragi will be totally thing and that event is like the scenario that I'm thinking. And Suragi along with like the while will be something the top of like table mountain for like the scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm just like new with like a serious and intense face like okay without a great at all at that point will be appearing in front of like Surgi. Like the scenario that I'm doing. And at that point like Surgi was also noticing that like it's like remaining to Pokeball as well like Pokemon as well like in getting access to that once like you would be making it like end up with like the scenario that I was recording right. So like at that point I'm like Surgi in an overconfident manner like would be using would be the correct maybe bringing out like simultaneously bringing out the free of the like booking and along with like we when lag would be straight away by himself will be trying to like fight use of like all three of fight and take down and defeat and get the use of like all three of the like Pokemon. But like I'm just like regardless of like and I'm just like it will be just like we while alone like I'm just like even like the remaining two Pokemon that like those were in like Tsurugi might have brought with him might be all Pokemon that would be most likely having advantage against like the really like Pokemon with the intent to like bad way to definitely increase the maximum chance of being able to like after me like sodium I don't definitely of that certainly the like the remaining two Pokemon of like sodium might be either other type of monster or like a ghost type of thing other than we might that also like the also the so like all the three Pokemon like Sodium ordering like all the three Pokemon just like Sodium might have trained to with like to what he might have delivered is left to select maximum solely with the intent to like bring down you. But like in that fight, like I'm feeling like new, the darkness created level because absolutely is like taking out like straight away taking out like the darkness created taking out like two of like the Pokemon and defeating two of like the Pokemon like totally. And then being like just so you Levi fellow like on the remaining. So like at that point I'm feeling like Suragi and along with like Levi like doing that absolute best then I'm like Levi that for me struggling its way into like basically landing a single attack and doing such an extent of like minor damage at all to like use like the scenario that I'm playing. That is like the pretty much really no technique a dark type attack. That's like the scenario that I was playing. So like the very next attack that you would be using at that point against like revive I was trying would be most likely a fighting type move. Which is like I'm putting like at that point like it would be like something like you can I think that can learn all the types of like moves like I'm saying almost I think that so the play you talking that this style would be that right away retaliating back by most likely using like a fighting back move. And I'm looking like that move landing a direct hit on like revive which is like which I think that is like not really dark about the ice type of so like definitely with like forex super effective to do it like I'm doing that single fighting type move of like you straight away ending up with like not only meanwhile with like meanwhile sending straight towards like tracking towards like Surogi and basically both of them lacking out and doing lots of them at that point and failing at that point is like the scenario that I'm about to bring. So that way I'm like eventually once like go and like the group of go Tokyo and Gary and like after he will be making it to the very top like after selection totally like would be like feeling like embrace towards like the realistic betrayal of like Surogi. So like while they and I'm doing at that point like they will be want their attention and focus will be only on like surrogate like them wanting to like find the surrogate and like find out like why exactly it did something so interesting and definitely while they will do something for like surrogate that and like them eventually finding like an unconscious surrogate like is like a pottery of like surrogates working on like usually uh, like either or like a something like either an unconscious surrogate on like the floor or like an unconscious surrogate with like this like unconscious event like on the floor too. Like the town is like the other person and other like so like at that point I'm looking like while they will be confused like at that point and the like me with once again making it like actually correct and then in front of like go and also my like at that point is when I'm whispering like them totally having their so like they would only assuming that it might have been news that might have done that to like surrogate. And basically at that point I'm thinking like the rain battle happening between like the against like new friends will be like by the team of like Tokyo, Gary, Go as well as like Athletes. Should like that's in the picture like the nature comfort other possible scenario that I'm going to be bringing and I'm okay, so like the name of the film right now is definitely for like the deep picture behind like the lot of like the scenario that I'm looking. So on the day of like so Tokyo and Asahi that talking from them alternate about like finding this like hidden cave behind like the waterfalls like the scenario that I'm looking and like so them entering that cave and then something like that one cave of the thing will be like this cave and that cave will be connected to another cave and like that way like I'm from like to being like a complex network within like the table mountain of like a multiple caves that are connected to like scenario that I'm putting and usually they would be making their way through like the caves and taking multiple caves and like finding even more caves like I'm putting definitely and I'm putting that there are being stairs as well built within that the table mountain. So totally mountain. So definitely like eventually I'm putting as like Tokyo the team of like Tokyo Asahi and go to be like going through their journey within like through these caves within like the table mountain incident between that running into Celebi is like the scenario that in one of the caves example they're running into Celebi is like the scenario that so like at that point I'm definitely Tokyo would be straight away telling straight away telling like Asahi as well as that those to like continue on their to not waste time and to like continue on their journey towards like New will be along the lines and Tokyo would be telling to like Asahi and go and with the like Tokyo trying to like fight and take down and capture I think like Celebi all by himself would be like the scenario that like while like the fight between like Tokyo and Celebi will be happening like on the different the team of like Go as well as like after it will be continuing on their journey and like eventually one other game like them from they're running into Reggie Villas with like the scenario that I'm focusing and like Reggie Villas do not at all be in its like dormant state or anything like I'm like it will be totally in its like awakened active state so like I'm putting like Reggie Villas straight away like while Go and how they will be running into Reggie Villas and Reggie Villas straight away chasing after them and they that way, like I'm looking at as well as go getting into like a corner kind of situation. So like at that point, I'm looking at Almani as well as go deciding to fight that up with a rain battle, two team member rain battle against like a Rajiniga like the scenario player. Those are my different of like the scenario being like one like the game of like so Asahi as well as Tokyo will be remember for instance and will be entering that like secret cave which might be put in the like behind that waterfall. Like at that point, it's going to be like surprisingly them all finding like their access to like the Pokemon like they them getting that reaccess to like the Pokemon like instantly like the scenario that I was doing. That way like I'm keeping like a continuous actually eventually like while Tokyo would be fighting off against like Celebi, like Tokyo would be able to like use multiple like Pokemon and like definitely while the team of like Go as well as like us we will be fighting off against like Rediga continuous correction today. Like and that when I'm doing them as well being able to like use multiple of their Pokemon. And I was bringing that fight like I'm by the time that they will be defeating Rediga or something like uh uh like two of like the Pokemon like one piece of like the Pokemon of like so as well as like Asuki will be failing. And like the second set of like Pokemon would be like getting significant taking significant damage and will be exhausted at that point. It's like that was a lot of right. And then totally uh And it would be only at that point that then will be finally succeeding in that all scoring and defeating the users. And go at that point when we get the like the scenario that I was showing. And I was playing like go succeeding in like capturing just with like Pokeball and like those straight away adding just to the select party and like exchanging that painted that Pokemon of both this without painted and like fight against like really just to back to like the lab using like open concepts and that being possible is like a was preventive scenario like a bit. So that way by the time that Pro and Alpha he would have defeated really just from that so you would be like showing up to that exact location. And like at that point, like so, and also he would be curious as to like whether like okay or by himself also able to like achieve that ultimate goal of the cancer in surgery or celebrity or no. But at that point, like Tokyo that will be shown that Pokeball and with that's what's my so like and that way by then like Tokyo as well will also appear in that achieving this like ultimate goal of like capturing enemy like the finale that yeah like I'm doing like Tokyo would be definitely also wanting to like okay meet like Mew as well and probably even fight that up against like as well like the scenario that that way like I'm doing that the team of like Tokyo Asahi and Go one can continue on their journey to like the multiple days to then like TableMount until they eventually making it to like the top of like the TableMount and like the scenario parameters of the and at that point, I'm like them with it only the first thing that will be in their mind will be Gary as well as that Surgi that they'll be worried about them like as to like how if they have found new or like they have that for their suggestions. So like luckily straight away like Asahi go as well as like Tokyo will be shouting out for like Surgi as well as yeah, it's like the scenario that he put on and I'm like there have to be thickness as well then on the very top of that the table mountain of the like was not there. So like so that takes much length and that's fairly something for like Gary as well as like Survey and like them eventually talking finding that an unconscious Gary as well as like Survey lying on the ground and like on the spring that Pokemon as well like lying beside but in an unconscious manner like Levi as well being in that and defeated and like unconscious manner like that was not so like at that point is when I'm like no you will be totally arriving content so making it select and in front of go and basically at that point I was like that ultimate raid battle like against like new happening at that point with the team of like Asahi Tokyo as well as Go. Just remember raid battle against like what I'm looking for towards like the end of this that I'm looking that uh I'm still taking remember the mission that and in that raid battle I'm totally putting like definitely for uh Tokyo music is like celebrity he like fight up against me and like go using is like really really just to like yeah to fight off against like me. While Asahi will be using her own two Pokemon to like the to fight up against me like the scenario that I'm supposed and definitely I'm also bring that so at that point we'll be having to select really as well as select Inteleon whereas like uh Tokyo will be having to select Celebi as well as select very soon like the scenario that I'm so in that fight like I'm like still Mew being so still even that right that being so stringy of all that like still would be taking out for and defeating Saredia as well as like even Celebi as well it's like the scenario and like taking out like two of like the Pokemon of like Arthur as well. As well as like Tokyo, like Veruzion as well, like on the like new talking with your boring and everything. It's like the scenario that I'm but like I'm sure by then like new will be talking panic and will be exhausted. It's like the scenario that I'm and at that point I'm just going low will be having this like laptop on the many different videos like Nintendo. So like I'm in that point like I'm like Nintendo will be struggling its way into that basically doing a lot of damage to that the already expanding new at that point is like the scenario that I'm yeah, like I'm just new still being into like absolute everything is still going to be totally offering and defeating both Intellion. It's like the scenario that I'm yeah, like I'm just that go and like Intellion would have given it their absolute best and maximum to definitely it is new perspective scenario that is again new or by then that will be the totally exhausted will be should they also in front of the flat so that zero and the black performance and everything. And could be also that will be the making of the black Tokyo's performance as well as that other his performance like the scenario that I'm cutting. But like I'm just like it would be like those like performance that like we like the most and that me was totally who would have according to my information even in like the past when like you had seen so had appeared before so like at that point you might have shows up might be like that will different secret something like straight away like showing up and so at that point thinking that basically he has lost his chance that's really on as well really that like the scenario that by me studying scenario that go think that he won't be able to like capture me. So like at that point, like you probably come goes to in front of like go and is allowing go to like get the select the scenario, choosing those that is like the scenario that is and that way like okay, that's the scenario that is sitting on the memory. Okay, so like definitely my preemption right now is definitely for that going to be written by Celebi and not you. Might be like that with the configuration supplement. So like that's fine here on that the bird on that bird it might be belong to Celebi and not you. Might be like that with the configuration supplement. So like Celebi might do that as it's surprise that I'm looking for that might create like that will be that happening. That will be lying away and this will be happening to like that the team of like Tokyo as well as like to be running into the darkness created by something that cave. And like that, the biggest surprise for us, especially from here, to be Celebi. Them would be ones happening once the cave running into Celebi. So created less like the scenario parameters of the Panyama career. Obviously, like that is also like a preemption for like it might have been definitely new itself that might have created like that whole like percent right like the top of table system, but like it might have been like a test another test by men as for like another test right to that way to that uh, to get them to that to a job kind of like a situation in that path towards like by getting them towards like raising jobs like that might which might be definitely different within that table on that somewhere in that some should stay within that table knowledge. So to like get them towards like raising jobs and different uh, uh, like something like that code might have been created by me on purpose might be like a case of something like that. So like uh, following through that for like and like Suragi right now the maybe of the possibility of like the team of like Suragi and Gary maybe ending up finding eventually running into fighting that's like the scenario that I'm going to like. So that in that raid and I'm that way maybe a raid battle against like Reggie just between like the team of like Gary and Suragi happening. And definitely in that right battle like I'm going to bring that number bring for it to be eventually that Gary's working on that is probably landing that final attack that will be defeating Reggie like this now that yet like I'm putting before like Gary will be able to like throw his like football like and like um I'm totally protecting for like Surgery to be throwing his like football and basically totally capturing like three straight away like in an extremely unfair manner like the scenario that I'm doing. And Gary at that point would be extremely feeling enraged and angry towards like the unfair action of like Suragi and like Gary would be totally questioning Suragi at that point as to like why as for like that really just like totally deserving for like Gary and not Suragi. But like I'm doing like Suragi totally ignoring like the questions of like Gary and like Suragi would be telling Gary that is the that they should be totally focusing on like as really as possible that making it towards like at the end of the night something like Suragi totally ignoring that Gary and basically will be going ahead. That's like the scenario that I was looking at. At that point is when I was feeling like Gary would be totally realizing that like the being a totally different side to like Suragi. Like because like I think like Gary had that so far had like that good respect towards like Suragi. This is what I think like Gary had himself had really like about to go. I think that is so definitely that very same Gary like I'm probably putting that at that point that totally seeing a totally different unseen side of that Suragi like the scenario that I'm doing. And that way from that point on like Gary being totally conscious of like Suragi and like seeing Suragi as like someone who can't be like fully trusted to be along the line like Gary to be seen Suragi as from that point on. It's like the scenario that I'm going for it. And maybe I'm just bring up that like one like Gary, the team of like Gary and Suragi, as well as like the team of like Go Asahi, as well as like as well as that Go Asahi, as well as Tokyo, like I'm bring like in a similar manner for like the team of like Gary and Suragi running into upon running into a pretty in a similar manner like Asahi, the three number group as well running into following like the very like them eventually ending up like running into Celebi and like them having a raid battle against like Celebi in which like both go as well as like Asami would be knowing that Celebi is like the ultimate goal of like Tokyo, so like definitely them allow Tokyo to like capture that that scenario that I'm trying. And definitely I'm looking that bad like I'm going to Tokyo, not like maybe even performing like the best in that battle against like that raid battle against celebrities also like a possibility that I'm looking. Definitely you know like Tokyo celebrity being that Asian goal of like Tokyo definitely I'm looking that is resulting in like Tokyo that being pushed to like basically perform the best to be because like as good as an outperform even to go as well as like it's open like to that that way like I'm just trying that Tokyo capturing Celebi and like Suruli capturing Retiligas and after like as they'll be continuing their journey through like within like the table mount that I'm connect them from eventually ending up running into each other at like a common point of like a location where within like table mount and it will be this like huge cave where like I'm sure there being waterfalls and everything. So like there's when bring like uh, at that point when like these two groups will be meeting up like at that location will be when bring like you would be making news like grand entrance and like that absolute raid battle against like news would be happening by the entire team of like Jesus. That's going to like not a public that I'm like I'm not saying. Okay, so like we might particularly end up that I'm spitting on this definitely for like super data having that secret hidden villain's feeling connected to his like goal of like capturing might definitely be the case of the like in that thinking mode and for this reason I'm considering like me not hearing in front of sort of like the scenario that I'm like so like I'm hearing like the scenario that I'm sitting on to step for like initially in like the right journey of the dream of Tokyo as well as like those and like the right journey, the dream of like Gary as well as like so really like I'm like eventually the spring like them that's the right journey to eventually crossing paths and with like them or journey up to like each other of like the scenario at this like common location where like physical mention which would be like a huge cave like area with like they are being one spots and everything like the scenario that I'm playing that extremely beautiful space within like the table mount like where I'm with them so they ending up meeting each other like the two teams meeting each other like the scenario that I'm doing and at that point I'm thinking like as like you would be making it like grand entrance like might the border will be making it like grand entrance and you in a stealthy manner while remaining invisible like a like would be targeting would be definitely targeting like Suragi and basically will be like most likely using like sleep powder most likely and that type of like sleep powder to like put Suragi to sleep it's like the scenario that I was really and target Surugi alone and like putting both Surugi as well as like Surugi CPY to sleep in a stealthy manner. Like while Mew doing this while bringing invisible. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at. Like at that point, I was like, go and I was really thoroughly confused as to like what's happening with like Surugi and like this like going on and this leads both of them falling asleep and while so and also movie confused them bring it to be at that point that I'm so different like movie dealing with like grand and like I'm just bring like like, and I'm just like maybe at that point, like then so we maybe like at that point, like Tokyo maybe having a suspicion or like maybe go having like suspicion of feeling of sexual possibility of like maybe like you having put sorry as well as like Levi quickly possibly having to go with like maybe sorry having like secret hidden villain villanistic feelings or intentions come to that new uh, coming into that thing, maybe wanting to like capture me. I did off the line some person that go and others would be feeling that suspicion, go and maybe it was you maybe feeling that suspicion. And I'm in that way. Right now probably putting in that in raid battle that I'm putting against you that only happening like in that raid battle definitely I'm putting that. While right now totally putting Gary as well as like Tokyo as well as like as well as Asaki taking part in that raid battle. Definitely I'm putting still sure he won't be able to like take part at all in that raid battle because of like I don't want to getting Syria will revive to sleep. Find that rain van will be happening. And I was going to be only once like that rain battle will be over and once like the rain battle will be over and like you will be most like you can go and like that way getting captured by go. We only once that will that entire thing will be over like that I was saying like slowly like slowly as well as like revive the like waking up from like the sleep out such that from the top sleep out of left in scenario that I was doing and my preparation and at that point like slowly being extremely frustrated and disappointed. With the shocking realization that go has captured me. It's like the scenario that I'm considering. And at that point, I'm considering like maybe like the two colors of like so really basically like go under this like shock me witnessing and basically sort of revealing as to like basically maybe wending out at that point at like so in an angry manner and maybe that way at that point maybe that sort of is that so or connecting to that thing being a part of that person getting revealed at that point. Just like maybe of like a one that I'm looking over and my very okay, so let be my very number instance right now that it like the very distant past like it might have been surrogate that might have been that like robot trainer from new had like probably slam and basically I use like fire and ice don't attack again that might be the case depending on because like this like secret villain stick hidden intention that like I can't think that thing wanting to like capture you this might have led to like you might have been be able to like sense that might be the case depending on right. So like that way like I would like that way able to like like you might have like in a villain stick man up might have like with sort of in like that might have been the case of maybe at that point like you like, might have been not at like the like very stable mount that might have not been the case. Like you at that point might have been like just casually traveling through the world, maybe select something for that perfect chosen one for like you that you want to be like trainer. And it might be while you might have been traveling and like while you might have been traveling and searching for that perfect chosen one like that like like surrogate might have probably ended up finding you and like might have sent out Pokemon trying to like attack and capture you. Might have been the case as what might have happened in like that about the Kingdom President. Might be at that point that like you might have sent that villain from within villainship feeling within that Surugian might have probably like tens of Surugians as a half and in like the after that this might be like that Roman train of that how can you right now talk about and so that might have represent where like all this might have happened like way before like Surugi to that joining project might have been the case the elements for impression and definitely interpreting like that as well might have resulted in like Surugi when holding a huge grudge and like that the preserve to like get revenge and of suffering in a very manner to like of suffering as well to Mew to get back at Mew as well might be the case even to the person might be the case before like after Mew might be like the case with like in the case of like sort of even to the person who's definitely might be famous. So like there will be that strong feeling of that feeling to think that sort of right now. It's definitely my theory. Okay, so like definitely the friends and right now so like all the hurricanes and storms that made like the Faraway Island like up to like really hard to like access for like humans and basically like they are paying only that dry season like each year like I mean this would all be like the work of like work tire work as well as ground down who since that they are right now ready to be present within like TableMount and like and definitely because either they are doing that like I'm saying the result of all the like weather condition in like Faraway Island. If they're new information, they will be most likely take orders from you might be like that to the situation that you for any. Due to that all these like legendary Pokemon like would be the last thing they would be wanting would be for like that humans to like disturb the situation like this like location itself has been revealed to be like mostly untouched by like humans totally protecting that. So definitely to keep it that way, like and bring that according to like news orders, like and when that it might be Kyogre that might be creating orders like might be always like maintaining like all like hurricanes and storms that surrounding that faraway island. It's definitely my representation and like definitely still you might end up with like it would be just like ground on giving that free chance and like the priority would be to like keep humans away from that faraway islands. Yeah, like I'm that uh, you will be also giving ground down as well. That is that a bit of like look like ground down as well. That while like the faraway island that way due to that kind of power will be mostly all hurricanes and storms. Like I'm definitely ground down as well will be. Uh, Separately wanting to like charge up with like its power of like sunlight and everything. Just, by changing like the level of like sunlight and or probably separately that you would have allowed ground down to easier for like the brief dry season where like ground down to like use its power to like basically to turn it into like a dry season and basically for like ground down to like chart. Uh, might be like the case of the minimum and I'm totally present like a Rayquaza right now in the development might definitely not be present in like table mount or like in part of the island at all. might be like that with the situations that you mentioned, or because maybe in like the person might be at face, might be the case definitely not the regime. Might I'm probably looking it to be only the percentage will be only just ground down as well as like Kyogre and that will be within like TableMount. Might be like the activity of the situation like supplement trends and definitely like the thing ground down as well as like Kyogre right now doing would be all according to like the orders of like as well. Uh, might be the case definitely not correct. So like this if the prices are being early, surprisingly being early this year alone, that might be definitely due to that the orders of like me like definitely like Kyogre adjusting and basically you giving like the order to like ground down to like basically to this year have like the prices and early for like ground down to like use it like power to create like prices a bit early this year. And that might have been solely for like due to that once like you might have been this entire time might have been while staying invisible and thoroughly hiding on Slack project might have been still me this entire time might have been following in that growth journey ever since like go at first like uh seen new like since like first new had like appeared in front of that go like I'm sitting to my friends and like you might have been certainly following and like watching like the entire journey of like growth and like the friendship of that growth with like us and that boy and everything. So like you might have been patiently waiting for like you even back then seeing though as like the chosen one and you still deciding to like patiently wait until like go has like grown up and it grows up and matures to like the point of like really and strengthens gets stronger to the point of like at that point like the chosen one even while those like the chosen one like for like you feel like only feel as if like those like totally deserving of like the person of like being like the brain of like you and like of like capturing you solely due to this reason like and for from this point of view for me to like feel as like both like the serving of like me might be sorted into like news and that time recently might have simply waited and while following was like journey might be with its supplemental direction that thing over and that way like everything like once like you might have already felt like the robots like already at that point like you might have straight away came to that came back to like Faraway Island which might be like useful in home and might have given like the order to ground down and Kyogre to like stop the like hurricane and stop and basically for like ground down to like have like the fight to begin like the dry season early and that way to like you go like around like the first move thing like to you go to like far away island and then that going to form like you to like thoroughly test go through like does not only go but like the adaptive the first new scene as well through like Kyogre as well as ground down might be like what new will be doing like everything Kyogre and ground down like doing like even to the person will be all according to like all setting order to them might be like that you give expectations certainly might be the real so like the label dimensions for like it to be like most likely beyond like the obstacle of like ground down and Kyogre might be a huge cave like a huge different and extremely beautiful and pleasant cave and like would bring it to be most likely there that like you would be like patiently waiting for might be like that the situation that may not and they would bring like sitting them with the that like down as well as Kyogre like showing up front of like the two teams of like chases would be most likely new according to like news order like new giving like the test to all the chases is like might be the case remember so like even while you might have selected go as like the chosen one still even from the point of view we will be talking that like go still will have to like prove himself uh, uh, that like you might have said that like you would only allow go to be to the answer you have only give like go prove himself to in that final frame battle against like you if like a go even makes it towards like new and like in that sim like go is like shown up the like all these like changes like go has left for himself to be far better and stronger than all the remaining shades of members so like and would have to like with all the person like Pokemon would have to like in that battle against me would have to like perform up to like the standards and mark of that new like expectations to not for like new to like totally finalize that like so it's like only deserving of like news. Where like only at that point that news would be allowing go to like catch up news. Would be along the lines like we might be thinking definitely on the trend. So definitely able to bring like definitely able to relax and go this is like go on definitely not succeeding. Even in like the rain battle them not succeeding in like defeating news but like still like even though like the chases will be getting defeated, eventually getting defeated by me, like and like sitting about strategy to be like new, like be getting impressed with like those like performance and literally, like you allowing those to like capture me might be like that to the scenario that I'm looking for. So until then, I'm looking like even in like the current pattern, which I'm only protect happening with, against like the obstacle of the guy over and ground down, definitely I'm looking like that happening. And in like the case of like ground down appearing before like carry as well as so definitely I'm looking like news will be like having fixed in news mind to like definitely not allowed to relate to that even see news again. Definitely due to that, I'm pretty confident Suragi will not like they having that hidden, even though the person will be having that very same secret hidden villain stick in that. I don't think to like wanting to that company might be the case definitely fundamental trend. Definitely comparing like ground down even showing up before like Suragi and Gary might be only like news test which might be only meant for carrying, might be that definitely memory aperture. So definitely I'm referring like uh, it does like that's like I'm neither even though I'm referring like Suragi, so just like absolute best to like attempt to like not really defeat ground down, but to like capture ground down. Like even though Suragi would be desperately doing like absolute like that's like because like from Suragi's point of view, like just like ground down has in fact like a powerful legendary Pokemon and Suragi will be only thing that like if he's able to like capture ground down, then we might have like a serious chance like really at like capturing you might be along the lines like I'm referring like Suragi would be at like offering and defeating and capturing you in the would be along the lines Suragi would be thinking and I'm referring like Suragi in like the remaining Pokemon for like Suragi like that might be like the strongest among like the previous like Pokemon that like Suragi would have captured. So like I think like Suragi is like about had captured I think like really I think so. Like definitely one of like the Regis will be definitely in like currently representing like Suragi's like Pokemon team which like Suragi would have off to like defeat and get something. Might be like active representatives definitely mentioned. So definitely so like I'm looking that rate battle like I'm looking like uh but the team of like Suragi and Gary loses like down down I'm looking like that battle like Suragi and Gary giving it their absolute best and I'm looking at them mounting a certain dealing a certain extent of damage to ground down. Yet like I'm putting them definitely not being able to like defeat ground down or neither being able to like capture ground down like the scenario that I'm seeing. So like them as per like the inspection given to ground down by me like I'm looking like then Gary would be succeeding with like his like performance in like fighting against like ground down. So like once like ground down will be realizing that like I'm like ground down will be like totally at that point would be like they bring out a bit of its like actual growth strength and basically with that attack itself like I'm ground down totally tearing away like tearing away Gary as well as like uh Gary as well as Surya and like ground down will straight away uh, like leaving that location and like most likely going like digging a hole within like that uh, big area of like the table mountain and basically going deep into like somewhere into within like the table mountain and like the snap that I'm doing and the same with like Kayava as well. I'm doing that raid battle which I'm not happening by the team of like Asahi Tokyo and like go against like Kayava like I'm like Kayava as well getting impressed with like the what like I got pretty impressed with like the rain battle performance of like uh, the team of like go Tokyo as well as Asahi like at that point I'm with like Kyogre as well like really straight away leaving it's like the scenario that I'm in. So like definitely I'm bring like neither to the Suragi nor Gary nor go even capturing neither Kyogre nor ground noise like the scenario that I'm with. And at that point, like one like the team of Go as well as like the team of Gary and Suragi would be like proceeding ahead like them both of their stuff like coinciding into this like common location of the school the cave where I'm considering like the raid battle of like we will be literally waiting for like that raid battle. And before that raid battle would be beginning like I'm like new I'm considering I'm trying to like new steadily then before appearing in front of them, like stealthy would be like putting like Surugi and like revive to these like states using it sleep out by like as like person up and then only like the rain battle happening against like new like the scenario that is sitting on the constraint. And definitely a question my question was like the current rain battle against like Tyrell and ground round will be happening and I'm also predicting for like both Tyrell as well as ground round turning into like the transforming into like the primal form versions as well during that rain battle. It's also like an interesting scenario that I was expecting.